You die in the dumbest way possible. Maybe you got hit by a truck. Maybe you slipped in the shower. Maybe you tried to microwave a spoon because it probably only happens in cartoons. And then, instead of going to the afterlife, you wake up in a glowing white room with a mysterious goddess standing in front of you. She says, "Congratulations, you are being reincarnated into another world." And then she hands you the most dangerous thing any fantasy character can receive: a race selection screen. Now, at first, this sounds amazing. You could become an elf, a vampire, a dragon, a demon, maybe even some immortal godlike being that looks down on humanity from a floating castle while dramatically sipping tea. But here's the problem. Fantasy races are basically just cursed subscription plans. Every single one gives you some kind of advantage, but hidden somewhere in the terms and conditions is always one massive downside that nobody reads until it ruins their life. Humans are adaptable but fragile. Elves live forever but take 700 years to make one decision. Dwarves can build a sword that survives the apocalypse, but will also refuse to change a door hinge because my grandfather built it that way. And vampires get immortality, super strength, and eternal beauty, which sounds great until you realize your entire lifestyle depends on drinking people like juice boxes. So today, we're going through the most common fantasy and isekai races, explaining what they are, why they're powerful, and why living as one would probably be way more annoying than the anime makes it look. And trust me, by the end of this, being a regular human might not seem so bad. Let's begin. First, we have humans, also known as the default character option. The race you pick when you skip the tutorial, ignore every stat screen and say, "I'll just figure it out." At first, humans seem painfully normal. No claws, no wings, no ancient bloodline ability that activates when they scream dramatically during a boss fight. They are just people. A human shows up to a fantasy world with skin, bones, anxiety, and the dangerous belief that anything can be solved with enough preparation and one very questionable plan. But that is exactly why humans are so dangerous. Humans are adaptable. They learn fast. They copy what works. They change when the environment forces them to. Put humans somewhere cold, and eventually they make better clothes. Put them near the ocean, and they build ships. Put them near monsters, and after enough people get eaten, someone invents better weapons and calls it innovation. That is the strange thing about humans in fantasy. They do not need to be born powerful if they can build power. They form villages, then towns, then cities, then kingdoms, then empires, and somehow act surprised when everyone else starts getting nervous. A human kingdom can rise incredibly fast because humans do not have the luxury of waiting forever. Their lives are short, so they rush. They test things. They fail. They try again. They make mistakes at terrifying speed, but once in a while, one of those mistakes changes the world. Someone invents a better plow. Someone invents a better bow. Someone invents taxes, which might honestly be the darkest magic of all. And before anyone realizes what happened, the fragile little default race has roads, armies, trade routes, laws, siege weapons, and a government department whose only job is making everyone's life slightly more annoying. But obviously there is a downside. Humans are fragile. Very fragile. Like, fell down the stairs and now you're gone, fragile. A human can train for years, survive battles, become a legendary hero, and still be taken out by bad soup, one infected wound, or seeing something at the worst possible time. That weakness is what makes humans desperate, and desperation is dangerous. When you know your life is short, you start building things that last longer than you do. And when you know you are going to die one day, you start asking how much you can accomplish before that happens. And in a world where everyone is born special, being able to become special might be the most dangerous ability of all. But while humans are busy speedrunning civilization, the next race is probably still standing in a forest, thinking about something that happened 400 years ago. Elves are what happens when a fantasy world asks, what if elegance was a species? They are usually beautiful, graceful, magical, long-lived, and connected to nature, stars, ancient forests, or some glowing tree that everyone treats like it has legal authority. Elves do not simply walk through a forest. They glide through it like the forest was designed around their cheekbones. And the main thing that defines elves is time. Elves can live for hundreds or even thousands of years, which means they do not experience life the same way most people do. A year can feel short. A decade can feel like a small chapter. A century might be treated like a long weekend with political consequences. Because of this, elves are often masters of skill. If an elf studies magic, they can spend lifetimes perfecting it. If an elf practices archery, shooting a bow eventually becomes less like aiming and more like politely informing the arrow where it is supposed to go. Their advantage is patience. Elves preserve knowledge, they protect traditions, they remember histories that everyone else forgot. They understand that consequences do not always happen instantly. Sometimes they build slowly, across generations. That can make them wise. But here's the problem. Living for a long time does not automatically make someone wise. Sometimes it just makes them really good at overthinking. When you have too much time, every decision becomes easier to delay. And that is the hidden weakness of elves. Hesitation. The world keeps moving whether they are ready or not. Elves are powerful because they can master almost anything. But they can also become trapped by the weight of their own history. And if elves are the graceful ancient people of the forest, the next race is what happens when an entire civilization looks at a mountain and says, yeah, we can live inside that. Dwarves are the fantasy race of stone, metal, fire, and unresolved family grudges. They are usually short, sturdy, extremely tough, and built like someone compressed a professional wrestler into a barrel and gave him a beard. Dwarves are famous for craftsmanship. Weapons, armor, tunnels, bridges, gates, jewelry, machines, underground cities that somehow look better than most surface kingdoms despite being built beneath several million tons of rock. A dwarf does not simply make a sword. A dwarf makes a sword with a name, a history, a purpose, and probably a 40-minute explanation of why the handle shape matters. Their advantage is endurance. Not just physical endurance, although yes, dwarves are usually very hard to knock down. Their real endurance is cultural. Dwarven societies are often built around tradition, loyalty, honor, family, clan, and craft. If a dwarf gives you their word, that promise has weight. It is not just a casual statement. It is basically a contract written in emotional granite. That makes dwarves reliable. But the weakness of dwarves is also obvious. Stubbornness. And not normal stubbornness. Ancient, generational, stone-carved stubbornness. Dwarves can become so loyal to tradition that change starts looking like an insult. A new method might be safer, faster, and clearly better, but if it was not used by someone's great-great-grandfather, good luck convincing the council. But if dwarves are shaped by stone, tradition, and discipline, the next race is shaped by something much harsher. Survival. Orcs are usually built around survival. In many fantasy worlds, orcs come from harsh lands where life is difficult and weakness is punished quickly. Wastelands, frozen mountains, brutal camps, monster-filled territory, places where having a bad day means a giant lizard tried to eat your house and everyone agreed this was normal. Because of that, orc cultures often value strength, courage, endurance, and action. That is why orcs often respect warriors, hunters, leaders, and anyone who can survive pressure without collapsing. Their advantage is raw physical power. They are built for conflict, and in a world full of monsters, raids, dangerous terrain, and constant war, that matters. But orcs are more interesting than just big angry fighters. At their best, they represent honesty through action. They respect what is proven. A title means nothing if the person holding it cannot lead. A weapon means nothing if the person carrying it cannot fight. A promise means nothing if it breaks the first time life gets hard. That kind of culture can create courage, loyalty, and brutal honesty. But it also has a cost. If a society is always shaped by conflict, peace becomes difficult. If leadership depends too much on strength, every powerful warrior becomes a possible challenger. If survival is always the priority, long-term growth can fall behind. Food, territory, enemies, revenge, more enemies, and then enemies created by the revenge. It becomes a cycle. But the next race has a very different problem. They do not survive through rage, discipline, or adaptation. They survive through hunger. Vampires are the fantasy race that proves immortality sounds better when you ignore the entire blood-drinking part. On the surface, vampires seem almost perfect. They are strong, beautiful, long-lived, sometimes completely immortal. They get castles, dramatic capes, perfect night vision, and the ability to enter a room like the lighting team personally owes them money. A vampire does not simply walk into a room. A vampire appears, and somehow there is wind, moonlight, and a piano note from absolutely nowhere. Their advantage is predatory power. A vampire often has enhanced senses, greater strength, speed, regeneration, charm, and enough time to learn secrets most people never live long enough to hear. They can gather wealth across centuries. They can master politics. They can build influence slowly, patiently, and quietly. They can survive enemies simply by waiting until those enemies become portraits on a wall. But here's where the fantasy brochure stops being honest. A vampire's power is tied to hunger. Feeding is not optional. It is not a quirky hobby. It is not something they can replace with tea, meditation, or one of those suspicious green health drinks. It is survival. And that changes everything. Because if your existence depends on feeding from living beings, every relationship becomes complicated. How much of yourself are you willing to lose just to keep existing? That is the real curse. And if hunger is a curse of the body, the next race is cursed by something even harder to control: emotion. Werewolves are what happens when a fantasy world installs rage mode into a person and forgets to add a safe setting. Most of the time, a werewolf can look normal. They can live in a village, work a job, talk to people, pay rent, and pretend everything is fine. But then something triggers the change. The moon. Pain. Fear. Instinct. And suddenly, the person everyone knew is gone, replaced by a giant, furious, furniture-destroying problem with claws. Werewolves exist between two states. The person and the beast. That is what makes them powerful but also dangerous. When transformed, werewolves usually gain explosive strength, speed, claws, heightened senses, and terrifying aggression. In a fight, that can make them almost unstoppable. Which sounds useful until you realize the worst possible moment to gain power is also the moment you are least qualified to make decisions. And that makes them dangerous to everyone. Not just enemies, friends, family, themselves. They are not always monsters by choice. Sometimes they are people fighting against something inside them that gets stronger exactly when they get weaker. Every transformation asks the same question: who is really in control? The person? The beast? Or the thing in between? And while werewolves are terrifying because they lose control, the next race is terrifying because they usually do not need to. Dragons are the fantasy race that enters a story and immediately changes the genre. Before the dragon appears, it might be an adventure. After the dragon appears, it is a natural disaster with dialogue. Dragons represent overwhelming power. Not normal power. Not I trained really hard power. I mean, the final boss has arrived and the soundtrack has become a choir power. Dragons are usually massive, ancient, intelligent, proud, and capable of flying over a kingdom while everyone below suddenly remembers they have somewhere else to be. They breathe fire, ice, lightning, poison, or whatever element the world decided would make the most expensive disaster. If a dragon attacks a village, that is not a monster encounter. That is something historians will name after the year it happened. Their advantage is dominance. Dragons can control territory simply by existing. A mountain becomes a dragon's mountain. A cave becomes a dragon's lair. A treasure pile becomes a dragon's retirement account that murders trespassers. Because they live so long, dragons can gather knowledge, wealth, magic, and grudges across centuries. But dragons also have a serious weakness: isolation. When almost nothing can challenge you, the world becomes distant. Other lives seem short. Other problems seem small. Other people start to feel less like equals and more like temporary background noise. A dragon does not always need gold, jewels, or ancient relics, but collecting them proves something. It proves that time keeps passing, kingdoms keep falling, and the dragon is still there. The next race is more subtle. They do not always destroy your life by force. Sometimes they just offer you exactly what you want. Demons are dangerous because they do not always need to attack you. A demon does not always appear as a giant monster with horns, fire, and a voice that sounds like a cave learned how to threaten people. Sometimes it appears calm, polite, helpful, maybe even honest. And that is somehow worse. Demons are usually tied to temptation, manipulation, corruption, and deals. They offer power, knowledge, revenge, beauty, freedom. A shortcut to the thing someone wants most. Demons find desire and turn it into a weapon. They do not always attack someone at their strongest. They wait for weakness. A desperate king. A lonely scholar. A jealous sibling. A broken hero. A person who wants something so badly that warning signs start looking like decoration. The scariest part is that demons do not always have to lie. A demon can give exactly what it promised. The trap is usually in the cost, the wording, or the consequences. A deal might grant strength but slowly twist the body. A deal might grant knowledge but reveal things the mind was never meant to hold. A deal might bring someone back, but not the same way they left. That is why demon bargains are so dangerous. The question is not always, will the demon keep its word? The question is, which word did you fail to understand? But demons also have weaknesses. Rules, contracts, summoning conditions, hierarchies, ancient laws. In many worlds, demons are powerful, but they cannot always act freely. They need openings, invitations, mistakes, loopholes. And if demons are built around temptation, the next race is built around something that sounds much safer. Angels are celestial beings tied to order, law, balance, protection, and divine purpose. They are usually powerful, disciplined, beautiful, and calm in a way that makes you feel like they already know your entire search history and are simply choosing not to mention it. An angel is not just a person with wings. In fantasy, angels usually represent a higher system: heaven, divine law, sacred order, protection. An angel with a mission can be terrifying because hesitation, fear, and temptation may not work the same way on them. You cannot easily bribe something that does not want money. You cannot easily threaten something that believes its duty matters more than survival. Angels often have holy power, healing, light, flight, and weapons designed to destroy corruption. But their weakness is freedom, or more accurately, the lack of it. An angel's purpose can become a cage, because the moment an angel chooses their own will over the higher order, they risk becoming something else. That is why fallen angels are so interesting. They are not always just evil angels. Sometimes they are beings who made a choice they were never supposed to make. Maybe out of pride, maybe out of love, maybe out of rebellion, maybe because they saw the rules and decided the rules were wrong. And while angels are tied to divine purpose, the next race is tied to something much darker. What happens when death does not finish the job? Undead are beings that continue existing after death. Death is usually supposed to be the end of the process, but in fantasy worlds, apparently even dying can come with technical difficulties. Undead can include skeletons, zombies, ghosts, ghouls, wraiths, mummies, leeches, cursed spirits, and basically anything that looked at the afterlife and said, "Actually, I have unfinished business." Sometimes they are created by magic, sometimes by curses, sometimes by rituals. Undead do not fear death the same way living beings do because, technically, that part already happened. A skeleton does not care about pain. A zombie does not care about exhaustion. A ghost does not care about walls. A cursed corpse does not need food, sleep, warmth, or motivational speeches. It just keeps moving. Which is impressive, but also the worst possible thing to see coming over a hill at night. But the real horror of undeath is not just that something dead is walking. The real horror is what gets lost. Memory, emotion, identity, purpose. The longer something remains undead, the more it can become separated from what it used to be. A zombie may be a body without a person. A ghost may be a memory trapped in pain. A lich may keep its intelligence but slowly lose everything that made that intelligence human. Undead are frightening because they persist after the meaning of life has disappeared. That is the difference between living and merely continuing. A living person moves because they want something. An undead thing may move because a curse, spell, hunger, or command refuses to let it stop. But not every dangerous fantasy race looks like a corpse army. Some look tiny, magical, adorable, and harmless. Fairies are magical beings connected to nature, illusion, tricks, beauty, and danger. Depending on the story, they can be adorable little winged helpers or ancient forest creatures who treat human suffering like a practical joke with seasonal decorations. That is what makes fairies so risky. They look harmless. They sound charming. They live in glowing forests, dance under moonlight, grant blessings, make flowers bloom, and yet fairies are dangerous because they do not always follow human logic. Their rules can be strange. Their morality can be stranger. A fairy might reward kindness, punish rudeness, or curse an entire bloodline because somebody stepped on the wrong mushroom. And the worst part is, from the fairy's perspective, that might be completely reasonable. Their advantage is clever magic. Illusions, charms, curses, blessings, shapeshifting, nature control, and strange bargains that make normal contracts look easy to understand. Fairy magic is often subtle. Sometimes it changes one word, one memory, one path through the forest, and suddenly a person's life is ruined in a way they cannot even explain. But fairies also have a weakness. They can be hard to predict, hard to negotiate with, and hard to trust because their motives do not always fit normal expectations. One fairy might help a lost child. Another might turn a traveler into a frog because it was bored. Fairies represent the beautiful danger of nature and magic. A forest can be peaceful but still deadly. A flower can be beautiful but still poisonous. A fairy can smile at you and still be the worst thing you meet that day. But if fairies are nature's strange, magical tricksters, the next race brings nature into the body itself. Beast folk are humanoid races with animal traits. They are one of the most flexible fantasy races because the possibilities are endless. Wolf folk, cat folk, fox folk, bird folk, lizard folk, rabbit folk, bear folk, snake folk, and probably at least one species that exists because the author had a very specific audience in mind. But beast folk are more than just people with animal features. Their bodies shape how they experience the world. A wolf-type person may understand scent, pack bonds, and territory differently. A bird-type person may build homes around height, wind, and open space. A lizard-type person may value heat, stillness, and survival in ways others do not. A cat-type person may have incredible reflexes, night vision, and the unstoppable urge to knock a potion off a table while maintaining eye contact. Their advantage is specialization. Beast folk are often excellent hunters, scouts, warriors, messengers, trackers, and survivalists because their traits give them natural strengths. Sharp senses can detect danger early. Claws and speed can help in combat. Animal instincts can make them react faster than trained thinking, but their weakness is identity. People may judge them based on their animal traits instead of who they actually are. A wolf person might be assumed violent. A fox person might be assumed deceptive. A rabbit person might be assumed weak. A snake person might be treated like a villain before they even say hello. That is the struggle. Their traits make them powerful, but also easy to stereotype. But while beast folk are living beings shaped by animal instinct, the next race is not shaped by animals, bloodlines, or biology. They are made from the forces of nature itself. Elementals are beings made from natural forces: fire, water, earth, air, lightning, ice, stone. Sometimes even stranger things, depending on how creative the world gets before the magic system starts needing a spreadsheet. Their advantage is that they do not simply use an element. They are the element. A water elemental does not control water like a spell. Its body flows, shifts, and reforms like water. An earth elemental does not wear armor. It is armor. This makes elementals extremely powerful in the right environment. A water elemental near an ocean is a nightmare. An earth elemental in a mountain is almost impossible to move. An air elemental in a storm can become part of the disaster itself. And a fire elemental in a wooden village is less of a creature and more of a public safety announcement. But elementals also have a strange weakness. They are bound by nature. They do not always think like people. These forces simply act according to what they are. That makes elementals hard to understand and even harder to reason with. You can speak to an elemental, but you may not be speaking to a mind that understands fear, ambition, love, or mercy in a normal way. Its nature is its personality. Its power is its limitation. A fire elemental may struggle where fire cannot survive. A water elemental may weaken where water disappears. An air elemental may be impossible to hold on to physically and emotionally. Elementals are powerful because they are pure. But purity does not always mean freedom. Sometimes being one thing completely means you can never become anything else. And that's the end. Yeah, if you somehow enjoyed this video and you're interested in learning more about fantasy races, isekai worlds, reincarnation, monsters, magic, and all the strange details that make these worlds so interesting, then consider giving the video a like and subscribe. It really helps a lot. But also, before you start wishing too hard to get reincarnated into another world, maybe don't be so fast to leave this one behind. Because fantasy worlds look fun from the outside, but every world has its own problems. And life here, even when it feels ordinary, still has moments, people, memories, and chances right in front of you that you might not notice until they're gone. Life is unpredictable anyway. So while it's fun to imagine waking up in a magical kingdom with a new race, new powers, and a second chance, maybe the best thing you can do for now is enjoy what's already in front of you. Thanks for watching till the end.